Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we review our favorite RPGs, collectible card games, MMOs, video games, PC games, and bring up interesting topics and things that we'd like to share with everyone. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
For presidents,
We'll try to stop that.
but we don't want that to happen. So, Madame Askew and myself have put ourselves into the running for co-monarch.
Yes,
And you can donate $1 to get one vote for any candidate of your choice, and you can donate as many dollars as you like.
And vote as often as you like.
And if you vote for us, you get a special, unique, one of a kind, or not one of a kind, but of a limited edition button.
Button. Okay, I want that button.
But you also need to know what these people are doing.
They already have one of those.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You need
So
to know.
there are 3 different candidates. You can vote for everyone. You can just vote for one person. You can collect the swag.
Vote it early and often.
Yes. So, but it is charity, and all of the proceeds, 100% of the funds go directly to Kids Need to Read.
Excellent.
So,
You can also get votes for trading in new books. So unused books can be also traded in for 2 votes.
that's right.
So
So you
it's-
can see the emphasis is on
And that's
the...
all going to be
At the High Chaparral.
Oh,
It's a nice trip because not only do you get to participate in the charity event, but there are the steampunk groups out there, so you can see what other people are doing. Now, do you live here in Tucson? So I run the Tucson Steampunk Society.
you do.
So, you just have to come out with us on a regular basis.
And how do we find you online?
On Facebook.
So there's
we have
the
a-
TSS, which is the Tucson Steampunk Society, on Facebook. But there's also Madame Askew's Temporal Entourage, which is our personal group that involves me, because I have moved to Oceania. So we, Madame Askew and myself do a number of tea dueling events all over the country and all over the,
We've
world.
expanded to Canada.
We are international at this point. I live in Seattle. So I live in Seattle now, but we have events that we do in California, and we do events in Canada,
Yes.
and
on Fridays. And on
and
Fridays,
Fridays we do it on the interwebs,
we do a live cast on Fridays, a live virtual tea party Friday evening.
where we talk about the activity of the day or
Hello, welcome.
teas
Please
that
come
we're
sit and join
trying,
us.
things like that.
So I think it's
I
probably
think we're
about
ready.
time.
Would you like to sit down, Master?
All right.
good.
Well, thank you for joining us. So welcome everyone. How delightful. We want to give a few moments because this is the first panel slot of the day.
Right, we want to give some patience for the people who are
Right.
late
And also
and
because
slothful.
slothful.
That's my way.
Oh, there you are, you sloth demon, you. Yes. And there's that cute Mother's with you.
He's late for reasons.
Oh, I see. All right.
He's still handsome and kind.
He is delightful. He reminds me remarkably of someone else, but I can't put my finger on it.
Someone handsome and kind, I know.
Oh, yes. So welcome to our etiquette panel. Well, we called it the Tippy Golden School.
Yes, the Tippy Golden School of Etiquette.
Which is, because you may not know this, because it's a rather arcane bit of information, but tea is classed in several fanciful ways So it's super fine Tippy golden orange pico, or extra special super fine Tippy golden orange pico. It's clearly a system developed by the British.
Yes,
because
arcane and requires a bureaucracy.
it makes no sense whatsoever, except that if you know that tea actually does have buds, and they can sometimes be golden. I still don't understand the orange pico part, that's fine. So, we are the Tippy Golden School of Etiquette, or the Tea School of Etiquette, and we have a number of things we'd like to address today, but we also want to hear your questions. So if you have a burning desire, a burning piece of information that you would like to present to us, we would love to present it.
Yes, and this is not going to be a lecture. This is more of a round discussion. We'll answer questions to your concerns. We'll address different ethical and social queries about engaging with other human beings and others.
And others, including demons and Shaiju.
We're definitely into demon suffrages.
We do like demon suffragettes.
I don't need to vote.
No, I know you own all of them. So, now, Arbiter, should we explain a little bit about why we wanted to do this panel?
I think that we should.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Do you want to start that off?
I mean, yes, I'm going to.
Alright,
I'm building the engines are turning, the steam is got to boil the water before the brain starts working. So, steampunk is a complicated subculture with a number of different members and organizations. But given the number of high visibility individuals, there's a sort of a lack of visibility and awareness around specifically minorities in steampunk communities. And so one of the things that we wanted to focus on was how best to create welcoming communities for minority individuals, as well as making a deep focus on ensuring that the way that we communicate is a welcoming and open environment, allowing for fair and reasonable discourse.
I think the thing is that you could boil etiquette down to a host of rules that you have to slavishly follow and memorize all the minutiae. But the reality is that etiquette is about lubricating the social exchange so that people do feel wanted, welcome, included, never minimized, never, I would say that sometimes you might be forgotten because there's a crush and that's not meant to be mean. And that sometimes someone may feel, down or distraught or blue, and there's nothing you can do about that. But while you may not be able to create a perfect exchange every time, if you understand certain underlying fundamentals of social engagement, then you can always be warm. You can always open your own sort of personal social door and say, join me at your leisure when it's comfortable for you. I'm here, I'm making space for you. Making space
and creating an equitable social contract that meets the needs of both participants, and that's what the focus of most etiquette is to build. The rules are subject to interpretation and they're based on the needs of the culture. And the need of a culture for steampunk, in my opinion, is to build one of inclusion, community, and love.
Absolutely. And we're very fond of love, by the by.
We love love.
We love love as almost as much as we love tea.
That's a lot of love.
It's a lot.
So one of the concepts that we're going to talk a lot about communication as one of our major key points of this, but the other point that we're going to be talking about is going to be called social capital, which is the amount of energy that you spend on working with other human beings and how much energy they spend on you. Part of building strong relationships, friendships, and good social communities is understanding how we spend social capital and how we spend it wisely, so that we can not overwhelm or overexert people, so that they're not able to participate in the community.
Right, and also so that you are not so exhausted yourself that you are unable to continue to engage in a way that is comfortable for you. So that's one of the things about etiquette, is that it does go back and forth. Like a lot of what we do, I think one of the things I love about what we do, the improv, is that it is always an exchange and a shared experience. And that's etiquette too. There's a shared experience. So, you look at the old books, even the modern books, it talks a lot about, when you should reply with thank you notes, when you should call, when you need to return an electronic mail through the etherwebs. We still like actual written notes, don't we?
I mean,
all right.
When appropriate.
It's true. It's not always appropriate. I mean, you can't leave a written message every time you receive a text. Hello, darling. Don't you look a treat? So that is an exchange too, and all of those minutiae, all of those specific rules telling you how many weeks, days, hours, minutes.
When the time clock has been started.
It's really about the underlying stratagem of maintaining your own social capital, but also continuing that stream of welcoming. So it could be very nitpicky with the little sniggly bits, but if you kind of are thinking of this broader underlying topic,
A more like superstructure.
I think you are always able to maintain a cordial, warm environment. So, would you like to talk a little bit about your take on social capital?
Sure. So, we can think about social capital in a number of different ways. One of the primary ways that we can talk about is the way we can talk about it in the concept of convention, because that's where we're at, and
That's
that
what
makes
we
the
do.
most
So
sense
many
to
of
do.
us.
And
Absolutely.
I'll take about two examples of different instances where the social capital is strained, and we might need to look at how we're engaging with people. So one of the primary ways is that social capital can become compromised is when someone is overexerted. So, for example, let's say it's not me, but some other more popular, very, very popular steampunk celebrity is at the convention, and they have been cornered every time they're trying to walk anywhere.
The gentleman robot.
Right.
Yes.
The gentleman robot has been walking to get food. It's 2 p.m. means that he was supposed to eat an hour ago.
He's in a
hasn't
big
yet.
costume. It's beautiful.
But he has to get to a location, be able to get the costume off in a pleasant way, and put it in a safe place while he eats food. Which means that he has to get from point A to point B through his adoring fans. Now, that is a lot of physical exertion that he is expending. Now, the gentleman robot and all celebrities are going to try to meet their needs of their fans, because that's why most of the people here are doing these events. Not a lot of people can do these events for their full-time job, and lots of these people are doing it because they love their fans and they love the art and the companionship and community involved with steampunk. But that means that the cost for them is very high because of the amount of social capital they're spending to be here, to be using their time and energy to make beautiful art for us, and to engage with us, to have good experiences with. So recognizing that while they're walking from point A to point B, they've indicated on multiple occasions that they are trying to get to lunch or dinner,
Right, or if they actively have a sandwich in
their
their mouth.
It's probably not the most appropriate time to ask them for a picture. It's probably not the most appropriate time to ask them for much anything, because they're eating a sandwich.
Unless you offer them a napkin. You're like, oh, darling, your skirt is hiked up, showing your sock garters, and I know, I said the word. And I think you need a serviette. That's sort of kindness. So
it's about what you're giving to the conversation. So if you're asking for something from them, you might want to wait until there's a time in which they have more social capital and energy to spend on that request. Yeah.
Well, you could do a pass by, like, I love you, have a good day, and
Right.
Absolutely.
Of course.
give love and
So like
fuck off.
that's a perfectly acceptable thing within reason, obviously, right?
Right.
Because if they're getting a person every 5 minutes, they're not going to eat that sandwich.
No.
They're going to have to say thank you every time they engage with someone.
It's if they are cordial people. So
Right,
that's
and a lot of performers are required to be cordial to their audience.
well, I mean, they're encouraged to be cordial. You may not know this. I used to work in the world of opera, which was an excellent training ground on cordiality. And there's a thing, who knows who Kathleen Battle is? Anyone? Yeah, all right, good. Kathleen Battle, for those who don't know, was, underline that past tense, was one of the preeminent sopranos of her age.
Of course she was a soprano.
Of course.
Of course she was. She is actually quite a brilliant talent. She's still in her singing years. She was banned from the Metropolitan Opera for not being cordial. So there is a line, right, that you can get sort of penalised for. But in opera world, and in certain worlds, you hear these terrible stories of people, like of Pavarotti, for instance, would refuse to wear any costumes except for one in any show. The costume designer would design the entire array of costumes. He'd come in, he'd say, I like that one, the checked one, and they're like, that's it? So you're going to wear the checked one to sleep, to die, to go to dinner, to woo the lady? Yes, the checked one. And you could not argue with him. That is not a cordial exchange, right? That is not
That's not equivalent.
It's not a nice exchange of the social capital because, for instance, all of those other artists are artists too, right? And they've expended a lot of energy. So here in our steampunk world, each of us is an artist.
Right.
We are each of us expanding a lot of energy and love and time to create the art that we're sharing. And so no matter your notoriety, there's always a level of engagement, a give and take. And that's one of the things I love about our steampunk community. But I think that gets to our topic of making this a warm and welcoming place, is that there are people who come in who are new artists, or they're very new to steampunk. For instance, you two delightful ladies are new to steampunk. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, you're here for the day. You have dressed up. You both look lovely. I love your scarf. It's very charming. Your chapeau is wonderful. You've taken the time and energy to be here with us today. I am very excited you're here.
No, we're very excited. New people in steampunk is always a pleasant experience because they all bring some new view on the art that's being created and the new experience to everyone.
So, no matter how new you are or how long you've been in the community, there's still that opportunity to have the social exchange. And if one has been in the community for a while and sees a new person, or a person who is maybe on the fringes, or looking uncomfortable, or looking curious and maybe a bit like, not anxious, that's the word.
Or self-disparaging. That's the thing that I see most common. So self-disparaging about their own costumes.
Right. It's just new.
If you have a person that you're working with who's like, well, I didn't really if someone compliments the costume and they immediately respond with, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know if I'm not very good at it. It's not very. I guess it's fine. The immediate response is always, you look fantastic.
Yes. You look
because
lovely.
If you felt like that before, you must feel more strongly if they feel bad about it.
Absolutely, and this is part of creating that broader, more welcoming community. Is as people who've been in the community, we have developed a bit more social capital, right?
No, we have a
little bit in the bank account, as it were, that we can expend to newcomers, to people who seem to be a little shy or a little anxious, or just like, oh, I'm very curious, but I'm wearing chinos and flip-flops today. Is that all right? Yes, you're clearly a beachcomber steampunk. Please.
I do have a comment on that.
Yes.
If you are wearing flip-flops, please do be careful of the cactus.
Oh yeah, no, that's very dangerous here.
Let's just not wear flip-flops like on this particular venue.
At this venue, flip-flops are in danger.
Okay, they're wearing chucks. They're wearing
Chucks. Chucks. Oh yeah, chucks
It's,
are lovely.
they're totally capable, just steampunk friendly, just not too soft.
Yeah, no, and you might want to wear like the metal toe caps on your flip-flops. Awesome.
Spats.
Spats. Metal spats.
Spats on a flip-flop. I like that. We could do that.
Don't think I haven't seen that in Tucson, because there is some magic in Tucson where flip-flops are appropriate for every event. Everything, including wearing spats. Although it's hard to book the spats under the... Anyway.
Okay.
The point is, a part of being welcoming is, as people who are established, who know the community, to take some of your social capital and take some of your emotional labor and expend it on the new people.
And in general, you should spend your resources in ways that benefit not just the community, but they benefit you in the long run as well. There's no way that Madame Askew and myself would have gotten to where we are now, which is like,
Sitting here with
which is
lovely.
very valuable. We would not have become where we are at without spending capital on people like our friends and our
You're all our
compatriots.
friends, by the way.
And strangers that come up to you in Long
And
Beach.
strangers that come
Yes.
up to us in the lobby, like our
Oh
village.
yeah,
In
no.
Long Beach.
In Long Beach. That was lovely. Well, I met this woman at a convention in Long Beach, California, and
The convention of the spiders, as I call it.
Yes, the spider convention.
I had been bitten rather maliciously by a terribly poisonous spider, and I was quite ill that weekend.
She was in a wheelchair. the
I was in
entire
a
weekend.
wheelchair the entire weekend. We had a great cover story for it, but I had a huge hole in my leg, and I was medicated and more askew than normal. And this delightful lady, just radiant in her khaki. I didn't even
Dragged to
know.
my first steampunk event, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, it
all
was
the
her
way.
first time.
It
And
was the first day ever doing anything steampunk ever.
so do you remember that experience? Because
Vividly.
you are new to steampunk, that was your first event, you've never been to tea dueling, and I was medicated. And in a wheelchair.
Nicely, I assume.
Oh, I mean, it felt pretty good. Better with the champagne later.
Oh yes, it was working for you.
It was quite the weekend. What was that like? Do you remember being
It
a
was
newcomer?
fabulous for me. It was just silliness, and I got to meet such incredible people, and I had no idea at the time that these people that I was dueling against and these people that I were talking were goofing off with would end up being such really, really good friends. I mean, Sparky McTrowell, Glenda the Tea Witch,
Oh, Glenda.
Auntie Barr. These were all the people I dueled against.
Grand Admiral Antibar.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I gave her a promotion last year.
Oh yes, that's true.
Grand Admiral Etiquette.
Yes, do you have a question, Don?
May I share an anecdote from
Yes,
the
of
perspective
course.
of when I was new?
Yes, sure.
I was attending San Diego Comic-Con as a press person, so I'm trying to be professional. I'm wearing a nerd t-shirt and jeans and just trying to be cool and low-key and report.
Yes.
But, look at who I am. That's not who I am. So, Saturday's the big dress-up day at Comic-Con, so I was like, well, it won't hurt if I just sort of add. And I'd seen Firefly and I'd seen people and I don't know. So I had this skirt that was from the mall and it was lacy and brown, and then I had a sort of a tuxedo top and a Western hat that's my sharpshooter hat. It's a Western hat I've had since college. And I was like, I don't know. And I ran to a vendor and bought a pair of goggles and a belt. So I was like, okay, I kind of fit in. And I'm just kind of walking around like sort of fitting in. At Comic-Con there's a bazillion different cosplays. And people are like, where are you from? Where are you from? I'm like, I'm just... let me take a picture. And then finally, all these people were like, are you going to the meetup? Are you going to the meetup? Are you going to the meetup? And I was like, what meetup? The steampunk meetup. What's that? Okay. And so they dragged me to the meetup, which is, you know, a couple hundred people in full regalia from all over everywhere. And they're all like, oh, hello. They were so lovely and just everything was amazing. And I've never seen such a conglomeration, and it was just love. And I was like, but it's just molecules, and I'm not anything. And you know, you were speaking to the, but I don't deserve to be here because I'm not doing anything. I didn't even know what I was doing. But it was just, and how did you do that? And how did you do that? And here I am.
Years
How long
later,
ago was that?
here you are,
2010.
with horns and everything. Beautiful. Yes, madam.
Do people
I do have to
adopt
throw
a
it
steampunk game?
Some people do.
Some. So there's no requirements, right? I think one of the lovely things to know, especially as a newcomer, it's also maybe an intimidating thing to know, is that there's no handbook. We have neither Miss Manners to guide us, nor has Tesla actually written an introductory. So it is what you make of it. You may choose to do a persona. You may have a persona thrust upon you.
We tend to give,
Who would do that?
we tend to, okay, so we have this problem. So we run the tea dueling events every year, and we have this reoccurring, it's not really a problem, but it's more of a like reoccurring theme where if we give someone a moniker that becomes their like entire steampunk persona.
So great.
Sometimes monikers stick, like the Lemon Pirates.
It's not just that though. Lemon Pirates, Dark Horse, the Sharpshooter,
The Judge.
the Judge,
The engineer.
the Engineer, the Texas
Terror,
Terror,
Mr. Octopus, the Biscuit
Russian.
Whisperer,
Mona
the
Lisa.
Russian, Mona Lisa,
The Prussian.
the Biscuit Shamer,
Biscuit Whisperer.
the Biscuit
the
Whis-
Lemon Shamer.
Lemon Shamer. We don't have a Biscuit Shamer yet.
No, that would be hard though. But Biscuit Shamer suggests that they're not very good at tea dueling.
Sometimes those biscuits are cheeky. Anyway, so we do occasionally give people nicknames while they tea duel, but also my own name was a gift to me from friends. And so
But I made my own.
Yes, you did. So you came forth with the most creative, delightful backstory. We won't get into it right now because
We're all very silly.
we'll get on a tangent. But there's not a necessity of choosing a persona. However, that brings us to a really good point of etiquette: introductions and meeting people, right? Because we're like, oh, you should go talk to people. You should go approach these people. How should you approach these people?
Well, I don't think it should be like very rudely.
No. Let me give you an example of what might.
No, we're going to. I have.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, you do it. Oh, he's buffing his nails.
Okay. So, I have, as we all can tell, I have a very effeminate voice. I'm okay with that. I live my life. I use male pronouns, he, his. But when I'm speaking to individuals on the telephone, as is my job, the reoccurring theme is, "You're a very nice lady. Thank you very much, Gwen." So, I, in general, am polite and try to like either not mention that they've not heard me correctly and are misinterpreting my gender, or if they really make a point of it, just telling them. But in this singular instance, I have called a person on a business call for a business reason because I'm working on business. And I've told them, and I'm like, "Hello, this is Glenn. I'm reaching out to you regarding blah, 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 blah." And they're like, "You indicate that you need assistance with this problem, and I'm going to assist you." And they were like, "Glenn, I thought you were a man." "That's what I thought from your emails." And I said, "Well, I am a man. Thank you for noticing." And they were like, "That's not possible."
There's so much to unpack about this experience. First of all, I feel like I should buy you a lot of tea.
Yeah.
No. This
Do
is,
I need to track them down with my teapot?
just so we're clear, they did not get what they wanted from me, and that was their not. And basically, at that point, you have burned your social capital with me, burned the bridges. And as the man who has control of whether or not I can do concessions and considerations for your loss in dignity, I think we found that we have run out of compassion.
So, but this comes to several good points. This was a really good example.
You're welcome.
I was going to use something much more lame, honestly. That was good. Terrible, but good example. Upon introduction, I personally find it very useful to introduce myself first. So I'm going to use you an example. Do you mind? All right. Hello, I'm Madame Askew. How nice to meet you.
Oh, how do you do, ma'am?
And who are you?
My card.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you are Have Darts Will Travel. Wild Wire, Paladin West. You're from Upper Canada.
Oh,
I'm very fond of
Canada.
I call it Canada, but only with people I know better. I mean it in a charming way. And what is your name? You are Have Darts. No.
Will.
I see Wire Paladin West. Is that your name? Oh my heavens! Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. I very much appreciate that, because sometimes I am easily confused by things like words and on paper and names. And I thought that was a description that you did wires as a paladin in the West. But now I know, Mr. West. What a pleasure to meet you. And Bytown in Upper Canada. Did I say that right? Bytown, there's no R. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Paladin West, yes.
Paladin West. Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for that. Now, do you want to talk about what I did?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the key features of what the conversation included was, first, she identified herself first to make it clear about what
I have a rogue corset.
She made it clear who she was. She provided insight onto herself, making herself more available as the first step. Second, when she was unclear about where their name was on the sheet that was handed to her, she asked for clarification rather than just making an assumption about what was actually handed to her. Once she completed reading it, she made sure that she'd said it correctly by asking if she was pronouncing it correctly, so that he did not have to correct her himself. Then she, when she completed the conversation, she indicated that she was glad that she got heard from him and that she had pronounced his name correctly and that meeting him was a pleasure. Those are all key indicators of having a good first impression of a stranger.
And a couple of other things I will note is that I went in for a handshake rather than a hug or a kiss or anything more affectionate or touchy. Now, I am delighted to kiss all of you because I am a cheeky minx and I will hug you all also. However, upon introduction, when I have not met you, I'm not going to just suppose and assume that you are going to be comfortable with that. So one of my favourite manoeuvres is to go in with my hand outstretched first. If they meet me, great. If not, then I gesticulate like a mad woman, so I just like play it off. But not everyone likes to be touched. Maybe they have a cold. Maybe they have PTSD and being touched is uncomfortable for them. Maybe they're like, that's a lot of red and you're very loud. That seems dangerous.
It's possible they're a bull and they're angry.
That's true. In which case I try and dodge. So I like to start with a handshake because that's a neutral and you can warm up the handshake. Would you hold this for me?
Yes.
I'm going to use you again, Mr. West. So one of the ways, if the handshake is accepted and I want to warm it up, I grip the hand I never crush anyone's hand, but I also do not have a limp Vicky hand.
You also make sure that you give not so much, like, the person who should be able to end it is the person who didn't initiate it.
Yes.
So if you try to shake my hand. So I'm now shaking your hands, and now I initiated the handshake, so I disconnect. But you are able to pull away.
Absolutely. Which is important. So the touch thing is important, right? Because we have different levels of comfort with touch, but we are a very friendly community. And so, I mean, you will see with people I have met a few times, with Brand Arbiter, we have known each other for eons. For eons immemorial.
But
long time.
in the current timeline, it's about 5 years.
Five.
So 4
Yeah.
Steampunk Convention.
Yeah, no, it's true, isn't it?
And then plus 1 more.
Yeah, no, right, you're right. 5. It seems actually like quite a bit longer.
Yes.
Like
but
you've
5
always
years
been
is
my
an
life.
absurdly long time.
All right, it's true. Anyway, sorry for the side, but with those I'm close to, I have an understanding of where we're at. Are we huggers? Are we like, do we cuddle up when we drink tea because we're just cuddly friends? But with someone I haven't met, I like to start with a handshake and not just assume that a hug is welcome. That's a big thing, isn't it? Not just assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So, as the person initiating an interaction and opening that social door and expending some social capital, one of your tasks and one of your sort of emotional labors is not to make assumptions about the person you're meeting. And that is assumptions about name, assumptions about where someone comes from, assumptions about age. I am 137, by the by, not a day over, no matter what day of the week it is. Always exactly 137. Not about their gender. So, sometimes people are very clear. I'm one of those people. I give a lot of clues about how I identify.
There's a lot of gender signaling.
Yes. It's rogue courses. So I do give off a lot of signals, and most people do, but not everyone does. So when someone isn't signaling, maybe they don't choose to signal. Maybe they're deciding what they want to signal. Maybe they're doing a crossplay, which is really fun. But I am 137, so here's the thing. The young people love the animes. And I don't know them very well.
I'm not sure where you're going with this. I'm sorry.
Just roll with me.
Okay.
Sometimes
They're androgynous.
yeah, sometimes they're kind of androgynous. And I cannot read the character. If you know the anime and you know the character, you know what they're signaling, the person playing that character. If you are old like me, and you do not watch the animes, you have missed the cues. When I make a mistake in that case, which happens, do you know what I do? I apologize. It's very simple.
Do we talk about apologies?
Yeah, do you want to do the apologies?
Yeah.
Because I'm happy to do that, but you're so good. Nice.
So, well, it's because I make many mistakes in terms of social protocol, regular.
Yeah, well, I make loud red mistakes all the time.
So apologies should be short, sweet, to the point. It should never be about you or alleviating your discomfort or embarrassment. They should be focused on making sure the other person knows that you didn't intend to hurt their feelings and that you will not do the thing again.
And this is again about the social capital. So when you have made a mistake,
You are the person on the phone.
I am the person who misgendered you on the phone.
In this instance. So the appropriate response might be something along the lines of, no, actually I'm a man.
Oh dear, I apologize.
No problem. Now let me get to this issue of your money that you so desperately want.
Thank you, sir. I would very much appreciate that.
We didn't focus on the issue. It wasn't. Here, I'll do it as if we're doing it poorly.
Oh, right. Yeah, let's do it poorly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I try so hard, but gender is just—it's so confusing, and I just don't know. Oh, can you ever forgive me? I just don't know about what is sexuality?
Here's the tissues! Stop! Pardon me.
I'm so embarrassed.
I know. So, but when one makes a mistake, as I know I make many every day, it's very easy because I'm human. The Grand Arbiter is a chaotic demigod, so he makes fewer.
But like, they're still like they're not they're just bigger. They're just I make the same number. They're just different.
Oh, they're different. They're on a more universal, supernatural scale.
Yes.
All right. But you know, the thing is that I have not really. I've expended social capital, but in a way where it's lost. It's in a deficit. Right? It's not being reciprocated in return. That's a nice thing. When you expend social capital, you get social capital back because you're having an equal, warm exchange. But if you make a mistake, there's this opportunity to go into the black hole of doom, in etiquette senses, to either...
To go emotionally bankrupt.
Yes! To either give that kind of apology that we just witnessed, which will dig your hole so deep, or worse, yes, there's worse, to deny the accidents, to deny the mistake, to claim...
To gaslight everyone into
your
oblivion.
fault you speak
Yes,
like
and
that.
then you are just gaslighting your way into, like, that wonderful, terrible movie, The Black Hole, from, like, the 60s, where the evil mad scientist is like, no, we're going into the black hole. I don't care that you're all telling me I'm mad. I won't apologize. We're going in.
That
My
was
beautiful
a weird
ship.
Disney movie.
I know, it was very weird, but I loved the technology.
No.
I did not understand the plot of that movie whatsoever, but it was formative. Anyway, so when an error occurs, just remember you have an opportunity. You can either light a torch and lead yourself out of the hole and magnify the positive and increase the connection and the warmth, or you could be the mad scientist on the black hole ship and go madly into the deep.
Just self-immolate.
Yes, self-immolate.
Yes.
I prefer the first option to the immolation.
So let me just check our time.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Timing.
11:38.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
so we're doing
Oh.
well. So we're doing.
Immolation leaves some scars.
It does leave terrible
So
scars.
I'm sorry.
we're not running out of things to talk about, but we also want to make sure that people have, if they have specific concerns, questions, experiences.
Comments? Oh yes, Belfast.
So every time you remove someone from your life, it always has a cost, and that's the cost of like. I love being an inviting person and inviting people into my friendship circles and inviting them to be part of my life. But part of the expectation is that at some point they may not want to be in my life anymore. And I have to sort of not plan for escape routes, because that's not really an accurate experience, but contingencies for my relationships in the same way that you would plan for contingencies in any kind of relationship. You want to make sure that you can't guarantee that someone is always going to be there for you in the way that you expect them to be, because things change. People have crises. People lose family members or lose their structures that they previously held very dear. People fall into addictions or unhealthy habits. People become toxic into you specifically, and they don't treat you with the kind of respect that you so rightly deserve. And in those instances, you have to make decisions about what makes your best interest reflect positively by doing the least damage as possible to the other person. Because ultimately, you don't want to...
Compound.
Well, here's the thing that I would say is that when you do a spite, when you hurt another person, you are still spending social capital on that person. It's just doing it in a very inefficient way. So when you spread rumors or when you actively accost someone and engage with them, that is not going to be valuable to you or to them or to anyone.
You are digging your way into the black hole.
Yeah, at that point, the black hole is calling you.
Yeah.
And the best course of action in general for these kinds of things is to try to find ways to mitigate damage.
I would like to address part of what you said. I promise to be good.
Pass by.
So one of the things the Arbiter is alluding to is something called the social cut direct. And it was called that in the 19th century and probably into the 20th century, but it's sort of, we don't use that term in modern life as much, and it's not something people acknowledge as much, but it's very powerful and can be very painful. Now, sometimes bullies use the social cut direct for those that they think are different from them, or new, or not worthy. You know, you see gatekeepers in communities decide that they can use that. Now, we are very fortunate in steampunk that gatekeeping is not really part of our experience. Not to say that there aren't cheeky devils out there who are unfortunate souls who have gone into the black hole, but that by and large the majority of people really want to be tour guides and welcome you into the adventure. So that's not usually what happens. But if someone has been so extraordinarily cruel or mean or vicious or unkind or done something
Truly horrendous.
and you cannot abide them, then the social cut direct can be it's very firm, but it is also neutral in that you have said nothing. You have not engaged in any negative behavior. You simply stop acknowledging that person. However, it is extraordinarily powerful thing to do. I'm getting goosebumps.
You're holding the weapon in your hand. It's the nuclear option. It's the most powerful, one of the most powerful tools you have in your etiquette arsenal, as it were, for friendship building.
Yeah.
Because at this point, you are nuking a relationship.
Right. And there could be fallout, but the thing to remember, I feel very strongly about this in myself, and I encourage all of you to consider carefully and wisely making that maneuver, because it is so easy to slide from protecting yourself into being a bully. It is a razor-thin decision.
Because at the point that you've made the decision that you're willing to cut out one person, you're willing to cut out other people. And not just for being cruel to you, but for being not what you want in your community.
So use that advisedly. However, one of the things I like is just to be Jane Austen. So, when I have had an issue outside of steampunk, for instance, actually one of the strange things that happens to me, and has happened to me since I was about this tall, is that strangers like to touch my hair without ever being introduced to me. They like actually just come up randomly and touch my hair and pet it, and then they go on and I never meet them. Or they come up and they say other strange things about people with ginger hair. And, you know, I could be salty, I could be snarky, I could be crass, I could be angry, I am a ginger, I could personify the stereotypes of people with my hair colour. But instead, I like to kill with kindness and politeness. And there's a difference from being warm and welcoming and politely closing your door with flourish. And so, to me, this robe corset, to me, you can continue to be polite and cordial and have your door shut at the same time to someone who has petted your hair, for instance, you've never met. Oh, do you often pet people's hair? What a charming pastime for you. Is it a hobby?
So that's sort of like the crux of our answer to your question, though.
It's actually a very complicated thing you're answering. I hope we gave you some useful tools. You can always approach us over tea. We know where you live.
And the other part is just making sure that you're replenishing your capital that you have. If you have to spend capital to like not necessarily repair, but to like, you know, maintain your barriers and your borders, because boundaries are an important framework of all relationships. And so if you set up a boundary though that costs energy, making sure that you're going back to your community and getting some of that back. Making sure that you're reaching out to people and letting them know that you want to, you know, hang out and feel popular.
So we must be approaching the freckled hour.
11:49.
11:49. We have a few minutes for a couple more questions. Does anyone else have a question or comment?
So shooting them is out of the question?
No.
You do want them to come back.
So it's only to wounds.
So the thing about shooting someone, my darling, is that
It's somewhat permanent.
it's very permanent. It's hard to come back from that. And you are sort of getting on, again, the vessel into the black hole. It is a very charming vessel. It's exciting. It's full of wonderful technology. It's flamboyant. The uniforms were so lovely. And you want to make sure it's directed in the right way, because if you go down the wrong black hole, you're doing yourself injury. So when you shoot someone, you may go to prison, which is bad for you. And we would rather...
color.
Right, no! Oh, no, orange is terrible,
It's
yes.
the new black.
Speaking for the new folks who may feel like they don't have the Madame Askew bosom to approach someone and be like, oh, hello, I'm so-and-so, because you feel shy or unsupported.
It breaks the ice like nothing else.
Bosom does break the ice.
What I find in the steampunk community specifically is there's so many built-in introductory ways, like, I love the alien on your head, how did you make that? And then you begin the conversation and with a compliment, which makes them feel great and open to you, but you don't necessarily have to have your persona built. You know, you don't have to be...
Also, in terms of
battleship
like
of
when you're
amazingness.
doing compliments, be specific and exact.
Oh, you are.
General compliments are not anyone's jam. No one wants to be like,
Disagree.
you're beautiful. That's like
I like
basic.
to
Well, I mean, yeah. But okay, by no one likes, I mean it is not specific and tailored to a specific person, so it's harder to connect to people with just the word beautiful.
Well, all right. I mean,
She looks a treat. That was a very lovely compliment. That was not specific.
Yeah,
That was
very
a charming way to
specific.
say.
Pulls of specific reference and article of person. So like, you are looking quite devilish this evening. This is much more specific compliment.
you can always escalate your compliments from general to more specific, too.
Yes.
Because if I haven't met someone before and I'm just meeting them for the first time, and they don't know who I am from the black hole to the black lagoon, I'm just some woman in red who's accosting them to say hello, then I find I'm doing this because of the rope corset, not because I'm tired. I should sit like this all day. I like to open with some warm rejoinder or compliment, but I will say
There's so many openings, is what I mean. In a steampunk community, there's so many things to look at and compliment and be
which
interested
is
in.
a wonderful entree and so specific to our steampunk community. Newcomers do have a wonderful opportunity here because we are all choosing to show some piece of art. And it is always cricket to compliment one upon their art, whether it be their very fine chapeau, or the alien on their head, or their dashing set of boots. Yeah, Mr. West, I'm looking at you and your boots. They're very fine.
You should look at his bullets.
Oh, your chapeau. Your lovely chapeau.
I think I can speak for Annie also that as newcomers, this is our first brush with steampunk ever, and it's wonderful. I feel very welcome.
Well, welcome.
And we hope to see you. We hope to see you at other TSS events.
Absolutely.
You will.
And
You will.
we can get you some information outside the room. I'd be happy to give you direction to our location on the interwebs. We are probably about wrapping up.
We are. If you'd like, we have
presents.
Double prezzies.
So if you come to us, we'll give you a little token. And then you can go vote for us.
Okay.
In the charity.
We will vote for you.
Vote for Messi too.
Vote for the Chemist Tea Girls!
There's so many choices.
Hey, Chemist Tea Girls, get your own panel.
Who needs a copy of the Tucson Padlock?
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.